Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so here we are for another week of fantastic questions. I know I missed last week, but we're back. We are back with a vengeance. It's gonna be one of those days today. I missed last week. It was the big event here in the UK. It was the British Kendo Association's International Summer Seminar combined with the FIK Shinban Seminar, selecting the referees for the World Kendo Championships. I was not a candidate this time. I was translating for the event. So yeah, I don't actually qualify as a referee this time, a candidate for a referee this time. So I wasn't there as a candidate, but I was there as a translator, which was really great experience, because I got to still get access to all the teaching from the great senseis by way of obviously translating it. So that was cool. But now we are back and we are ready to hit these questions. But before that, you know the YouTube magic: like, share, subscribe, and you can help grow the Kendo community. I think we've got more than like 4,000 people probably started Kendo now, because you wonderful people have liked, shared, subscribed, and written a comment down below what a great Kendo video, so that the people who are sort of on the periphery of about to start Kendo, that sort of stage, are noticed by the YouTube robots and then shown a video from this channel or one like it, and then they decide to start Kendo. I'm sure we can get to like more than 4,367 people probably start Kendo now. So make sure you do all the YouTube magic. Go and put a comment that uses the word Kendo so that the robots know who to suggest this video to. And most importantly, support the channel, support these videos by shopping at KendoStar.com. We've got more content coming for you. We've got Kendo Rant is back. We've got the feedback videos came back yesterday. We've got more activities going. I've got a brand new type of video coming soon. It's all done and ready. I'm just waiting to hit the release button. I haven't quite decided yet when I'm going to release that on you all. But it's a great, interesting video. I think so anyway. I had a lot of fun making it. We've got instructional content on the way. Really wanting to ramp it up, to be honest. So help me do that. Support the channel by shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar.com is the best Kendo equipment website in the history of mankind. Of course I would say that. Because I own the place. But everybody agrees with me. You can check out our ratings. We are the highest rated Kendo equipment store on Trustpilot for a start, probably out of all of them online. We're one of the highest rated Trustpilot affiliated websites on the platform, so out of all e-commerce websites, to be fair, and that's an independent reviews aggregate, by the way. So all the reviews you see on there, they've got to be genuine, they've got to be verified. So yeah, we're the best. We know we're the best. Somebody commented last week on I think it was the video I put yesterday, saying, how do I know it's the best in the galaxy or something like that. It's self-evident, all right? It's self-evident. I know there's a lot of people trying to take the crown from us, but they're nowhere near. Let's be honest, they're nowhere near. So don't waste your money. You're going to come to us anyway, as I've said. If you don't want to buy twice, buy right in the first place and come and shop at KendoStar.com. Right, okay, let's get to these questions. Okay, first one. I find that it's harder to be awarded an Ippon for a door strike than it is for either men or Kote. Why is that, when the criteria for a correct... Why is that, and what are the criteria for a correct door strike in Shiai? There you go. I knew it was going to be one of these days today. Okay, this is a great question. Get asked it reasonably regularly. Okay, so the criteria for a correct door strike in Shiai are the same as for any other Ippon. The Yuko Datotsu criteria are constant. They're not different depending on the waza. All right. There is a slight exception in something that's called Genmyo no Waza, which is like particularly difficult techniques, but that doesn't apply in what we're talking about. Here's the thing. This is really, really interesting, and I think this isn't necessarily directed at you because I think it is something that a lot of us do incorrectly, and it's the way in which you're actually thinking about this issue. All right, it's the way in which you're thinking about this issue. It's not that. It's not harder to be awarded an Ippon Fudo. You kind of, you're looking at this in the wrong way. You're sort of thinking about it in this back to front. It's not harder to be awarded an Ippon Fudo. It's harder to do a door strike that meets the criteria of a valid strike. That's the the crux of it here. Okay, so it's not that it's not that the Shimpan are stricter on the criteria for door. It's that it's harder to achieve those criteria when striking the door. All right, there's a lot more things that often sort of arise when you're trying to make a door strike that fits those criteria. All right, it's got to be accurate. It's got to have the correct, tsuyosa to sae, the correct power and sharpness. It's got to have the correct hasuji, the direction of the blade. It's got to be made at the correct opportunity. These are all difficult things when hitting door. A bit harder than when you hit men or kote, to be fair. So, that is why it is harder to make a door strike that fulfills the criteria, rather than why why it's harder for it to be awarded. At the end of the day, it's not what it's not the player who decides what is Ippon or not. It's the Shimpan, all right? So it's not whether it's harder for you to be awarded or not. It's whether your techniques are meeting the criteria or not, if that makes sense. All right? So I want you to change a little bit the way you're thinking about it. But that's essentially the answer. Hi Andy, I'm meant to be testing for Nidan in a month's time, but over the last 4 weeks, I found myself getting really frustrated and self-critical during Keiko, to the point that other people in our dojo are noticing it, and I've taken a week off since and I'm missing it. Good. But what can I do to get myself out of my funk and get back on track towards passing Nidan? On my related question, I'm staying with a friend in Japan at the end of this month, and naturally I'll be attending some practice while I'm there. What would you recommend as a gift to the senseis at my mate's dojo for allowing me to train with them? Thanks. Okay, so I think you're probably just overthinking this all a little bit too much. All right. You need to try and sort of step back a little bit from being overly self-critical here. I mean, I understand, because obviously I understand you want to pass your grading. That's natural. Of course you do. But if you're not careful, you're going to push yourself in the wrong direction here, and you're not going to be able to pass the grading because of the pressure you've put on yourself to do it. I think you're better off trying to kind of take your foot off the sort of, off the pedal a little bit in terms of the pressure you're putting on yourself, and just practice honestly. And if it's good enough to pass the Nidan, then you'll pass it, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Obviously, I don't know what your Kendo looks like, but it's it's just a case of that, really. I think taking the week off was a good idea, and then go back to it, and then just chill a bit. All right, look, go and do the grading. The worst that'll happen is you'll fail, which isn't great. It's not great, but that's the very worst thing that can happen. All right, you're not going to lose. You're not going to get hurt. You're not going to lose any limbs or die or something. You're not going to lose. Obviously you'll lose the money you paid to travel there and pay to do the grading, but that in itself is an investment, because you'll learn from the experience whether you pass or fail either way. It's not like you're gambling your house on it or something like that. So there's no severe consequences to this, right? So you can relax a little bit more, okay, and just try to get it, sorted in your head, so that you can go ahead and express yourself through your Kendo sort of naturally. I really think that's the way to think about it. Okay, so for the second part of your question, about staying with your friend in Japan, gifts for the sensei, really depends, to be honest. I try and get him something small that sort of is from the country that you're from. So me being British, like I often buy like little packs of tea bags or something like that. I pick them up at the airport, to be honest, get sort of posh ones, like whatever, and get some like English tea. They tend to like that sort of thing. And if you go to a kids club, then you can get, the other thing I sometimes get is like, you know, those bags of like sweets or candies if you're from America, like the multi-bag that's got the little bags inside. So if you go to like a kid's store, you can give them to the kids and they can try the kind of candies from a different country. That's what I normally do. Okay, next one. Andy, maybe one for Kendo RANT. Just got the new improved Borga rucksack. Oh, that'll be the Bushel. Great. Love the chunky zips and the TARDIS interior. Great. I think the TARDIS interior refers to it being very big inside, like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, so I'm not sure, but I do know the reference at least. Good. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like it. My Kote was stinky, so I gave him a bath, but when they dried, smelled even more stinky. Okay. I tried using Borga deodorant on them, but find the product has an unpleasant smell. You can delete that out the rank question. I didn't. I kept it in there. And now they still smell, but of both deodorant and the post-wash thing. Obviously, the Borga deodorant, it's got its own sort of smell. Whether it's pleasant or not is obviously an individual's choice. Is it a case of keep washing until the smell goes? Is anything else can try? For example, Febreze or the below pictured Dettol stuff. He sent a picture of like a Dettol spray. For reference, it would be for use on the Vanguard Kote. Thanks. So if it was for the time being, I think what I would do is I'd probably give them another wash and just make sure you soak them. You can soak them for a little bit longer. I'd just put them in a bucket or something full of cold water. And I'd just soak them in there, leave them in there for an hour or so. Not much longer than that, but maybe up to an hour, and then take them out and then let them fully dry out. And what you could do is you could actually, what might work even better is you put them in for about 15-20 minutes, then change the water and do it again, maybe 2 or 3 times. And then let them fully dry out. And if there's still a little bit, fragrant, you can Febreze is on something like the Vanguard that doesn't have a lot of like it doesn't have a genuine disc and it's all synthetic. Something like Febreze should be fine if you want to spray it with that. It shouldn't be a massive thing. Just don't soak it. But it should be okay. I think sort of washing them, changing the water a couple of times throughout the soak would probably be a good shout, to be fair. Hi Sensei, I hope you're well. Over the previous weekend, as you know, we had a wonderful seminar with the ZNKR delegation in the UK. Yes, I do know, I was there. I must say the instruction was amazing and inspiring. Having members from all over the UK, you notice, of course, variations in style. One thing that got me thinking, as actually it was me who seemed a bit out of sync with the norm, is there ever a time you can think of an instance where the same thing can be taught differently? I realise many sensei teach in different ways and often it's actually the same advice dispensed differently, but what I'm talking about is actual differences. The example I gave for myself was the ki placement in kata number 7. Most people ki ya on the men strike from the uchitachi side. I expect this is correct, however 100% I've been instructed by sensei in more than one dojo to ki on the door strike of the same kata. Okay, apologies for the long question, cheers. Okay, so that's a good question. Sometimes you get different, like senseis seem to say things that sort of contradict, but as you sort of start to understand them more, you realize they're saying the same thing in a different way. And sometimes different senseis say things that are different. That's definitely correct. That's true. I'll get to your ki example on the kata in a minute, but yeah, there are lots of things like that. And the difficulty is discerning which of those sort of idiosyncrasies are kind of still in fitting with ZNKR Kendo, and which of them are a little bit sort of off-piste, shall we say. Because there's definitely both of those out there. There's definitely both of those out there. So, you know, I think obviously when you have an activity that is essentially, Kendo is as much as possible tried to be sort of uniform and sort of, what can I say? Well, uniform across the board. So we're not supposed to have different styles per se. But when it is as not in the way that you would with other martial arts, for example, there's not such and such new or something like that. So, but when you have an activity that's practiced across the entire country of Japan by lots and lots and lots of people, and there's sort of 500 or 600 senseis who are at the top level, of course there's going to be some individual differences in the way that they interpret the correct way of doing something. So you might find that from sensei to sensei their sort of style is somewhat different, but overall it's really, really tiny, minute things. Like you say, the placement of the ki on the kata number 7. It's like, it's not like a big major thing. It's not like saying, okay, well, in kata number 7 you should start in Jodan instead of Chudan. It's not that big a deal, right? It's not that big. It's a tiny thing. So, you know, you'll have some sensei that say the way you grip the shinai should be in a certain way rather than a different way, or the way you should hold your Chudan left hand should be in a certain way than in a different way, or the height of your kensen should be a certain way, or the way in which you change the angle of the blade to do kirikaishi might be a certain way, or door strikes or whatever. These are all sort of things that are, you know, and to some extent, I think as you get to a certain point, you know, and this is a really interesting thing, actually, it's a bit of a tangent, but this is Kendo RANT, so, is that I think in the West we have a little bit of a tendency of over-relying on sensei teaching as well. And I think it's important to have senseis. Obviously, it's extremely important to follow the teachings of senseis, but I think we have a bit of an over-reliance on it, which is a kind of unintentional avoidance of responsibility. At the end of the day, Kendo, from a certain point, let's say 4th dan and above, all right, Kendo becomes a journey of self-study, all right? So it's not just doing what sensei said. There becomes a point where you have to watch, copy, repeat to a point where the Kendo journey that you're on becomes your journey and not just following the way you're told to follow. You have to use your own brain. And as I say, the difficult part of that is not taking that too far. It doesn't mean that you're sort of free to go up in whatever direction you want. There is a strict, you know, criteria in a way, in terms of, for example, what is the Yuko Datotsu, for example, their strict criteria as to what the Kendo is as defined by the ZNKR. But within that, the small tiny things, yeah, they are, you know, there's aspects of sort of self-study in that are really, really important. So you can't just rely on the sensei. Well, sensei told me this, so, you know, well, sensei said that, so it's not my fault. It's, you know, I've had this so many times before, you know, when I've heard someone fail the grading or something, they're like, well, I did it the way such and such sensei said and they failed me, so maybe they just don't understand or something like that. It's like, well, it's not really it, is it? You've got to use your own brain to assess and progress yourself and make the Kendo that you're doing your own Kendo, whilst at the same time receiving the guidance of our senseis in order to make sure that we stay on the right track, and don't go off doing our own sort of silly little thing. So it is a bit difficult. It's a difficult thing. There's a bit of a paradox in there, really, if you think about it, because it's not about making up your own thing, but it is about following the sort of Kendo system, by yourself, with hints from Sensei along the way. I think that's the point, really. You have to, at the end of the day, you know, it's you that has to do the Kendo. It doesn't matter what the Sensei says. It does matter what the Sensei says, but you know, I say this quite a lot, is, you know, I can tell my students, for example, to do this way, but it's them that has to do it. So you know, in terms of the kata, I think the easiest way, and this is what I always do, right, is if I'm ever confused about something, I would think, well, hang on, I'm getting a bit of conflicting information here. Now, kata is a bit different, because kata, like, it is sort of set in stone, and that's kind of the point of it, is that it's supposed to all be the same. So what I would do is I'd go and watch some kata videos. So for example, like, if you watch the latest kata videos, that you'll get a hint as to what the correct way to do it is, right? So I would go from that, rather than, well, the Sensei told me this or that. So let's have a look together. Okay, so I just quickly pulled up this is a kata demonstration from the All Japan 8th Dan Championships from this year. It was uploaded 3 months ago, so it's just back in April. So this is the latest stuff. This is Kasumura Sensei and Okido Sensei. Kasumura Sensei, fantastic Sensei. Had a really great time with him in Paris a few years ago. Anyway, let's watch, okay, and we can find out the answer to your question here. Let's check that there is definitely sound. Okay, so when is he going to say yeah? Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, so there's a distinct I hope that picked up on the video there. But essentially he says yeah, and there's a distinct separation between the ya and the to. They're not saying it at the same time. Okay, there's no sort of reason why you would say it on the strike of the statue. That would be a bit strange. So yeah, I think that's in reference to that question. I think the key question underneath all that was really about how you deal with senseis that teach things that are different, or you encounter things that are different. You know, it's a bit of a skill in a way, and it comes with experience, but there's some stuff you recognize is that's just a little bit different in terms of teaching or way of thinking about the same thing. And then there's when people are sort of totally off on their own little planet doing something different. There is with experience you get to understand the difference between those things. So you just have to make sure you stay on the right track as you're doing that. Okay. Right. Next one. Hi Fish Sensei, I hope you're doing well. I want to ask, what's the best way to following successful Debana Kote? During recent Shiai, my sensei explained that I hit Kote, however, I didn't move away in time to avoid getting hit on the men, so the ippon went to my opponent. Do you know any way to deal with this? Yeah, so this is partly a Zanshin issue, but it's more of an issue with the Kote, alright? It's more of an issue with the Kote. So I understand your sensei told you that you hit the Kote, but the Kote wasn't good enough for the ippon. Probably it was too late. The strike itself was too late, rather than an issue with the way that you moved after the Zanshin, which is, 9 times out of 10 when one hits Kote, one hits men, which side it goes to depends on the timing of the Kote, all right? Depends on the timing of the Kote. So it's hard to say without literally seeing it, but let's see if I can find you an example of a good Debana Kote Zanshin. Okay, so this time I've got some footage of Kunitomo Rentaro Sensei. He's I think he's a fantastic example of how to do beautiful Debana Kote. So here we can see a little bit of a similar example to what you're mentioning with this one. Okay, so he hits the Debana Kote, but he still gets hit on the men. But I think the men makes contact, but it's all about the timing. Okay, so he hit here, bam, just as the men was starting. So this is why, right? So even if his men is hit, this is already clearly the degote. Okay, this is clearly the kote ippon. It's not about the thing. Now, in terms of actually answering the question which way to move, after hitting, the best way to move is usually to the right hand side, pam, this way, so that they go in that direction. Often they'll sort of freeze halfway through if you hit the good degote. Here's a sort of like this, like that. Okay. Yeah, you see how he moves to the right slightly? See how he moves to the right slightly after hitting? This way. I'll hit my microphone there. Here's this way and then moves to the right that way so he can keep his eyes on them. Alright? This is such a good kote there. You know, his opponent just gave up on it. Oh, yeah. One more here, what's this one? Okay, similar idea. So he hits him right at the beginning there. Shinai's already made contact there. Bam! As he's lifting the hands. If you hit like this, it doesn't matter which you know, it doesn't matter even if they sort of touch the men slightly. That's gonna be the kote ippon. Alright? It's all about the timing more than the overall sort of zanshin and the way you follow it up. Okay, last one. Hi, Fish Sensei. I was wondering what are some textbook good opportunities for Gyakudo. One more thing, I'm struggling with my Zanshin because I think I'm too focused on trying to face my opponent constantly, so I end up orbiting around them awkwardly after performing a strike. What can I do to sharpen up my Zanshin? Perhaps specifically finding a balance between always facing the opponent and getting away from them as quickly as possible post-strike. Okay, so Gyakudo is all about getting them to sort of fully break their position, to be able to defend. As we're on a video watching day, should we see if we can find a video for you? In the meantime, I'll explain. But basically, the whole idea is you really want them to block in this way. I think we've got a little ippon collection here. Let's see if we can get this up. Let's have a look. And then we can explain it as we're going along. So. We got a point coming. There we go. See, there's a perfect example for you. This is what you're looking for. This position here. Right? Where his feet are planted and this is wide open. He's defending like this. This is a prime example for Gyakudo Ippon. Yeah, so see how quick the Shimpan are to award that because it was at the time. Oh, this is a great chance for Gyakudo. Okay? Really good. Let's watch one more. It's probably from Tsubazeri, I wonder. Okay, same idea. So this is different. This is when you do the Hikigyakudo, but the same idea. This time again, see how the opponent is in this position. All right. Once they're in that position, if you hit the really good clean Gyakudo, then you can get the ippon. All right. Now, in terms of your issue with Zanshin after hitting, yeah, you're probably a little bit too focused on that. I think what you're probably struggling with is getting your footwork correct. So as your footwork improves, as your ashisabaki gets sharper and faster, you will find this easier. But and then there will be a bit of a balance between getting away and keeping your eyes on him, but at the same time, you don't go around him. You don't want to hit and go around this way. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants to do that. You want to hit and go straight at them, and they're not going to move, so you bump into them. You don't bowl them over. You still control your body weight, but you go bam this way. They don't move, and you keep your eyes on them. If you want to get some distance, and you go backwards and then return to your kamae. Yeah, you don't go man this way, right? You want to go straight. Bam. Bam, this way. All right, so you want to move in straight lines almost. Okay, Not all the time, but not, you know, what we're saying is we don't want to be going kind of like, man, this way. All right, if that makes sense. It's about going straight at them, yeah, and then bouncing off them if you have to, if that makes sense. So there we go. We're at the end. Thank you very much for joining me today. There wasn't loads of questions, but they were good ones. There were some really good ones there, actually. I thought we had some great stuff to talk about. I know I rambled a little bit about, especially about that stuff in the middle, about the different sort of teachings from Sensei. But it's a bit of a fuzzy thing, isn't it? It is a bit of a fuzzy thing. But it's good to chat about. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, shop at KendoStar, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.